right, here we go. The story goes like this. Dr. D's Wrestling Showcase is on the air. Dr. D Showcase is live. Dr. D Showcase is back. We are back and we are live here at HBCU Con. I'm very excited, very excited, very, very excited and happy to be a part of this historical event. And I just want to say thank you to everybody that's watching. Thank you to everyone that's here on this panel. And I definitely want to shout out my friend CC, the Greek Geek, the chair, the founder of HBCU Con. I want to thank her. I want to thank Wendell. I want to thank Wendell for being able to help us because it's it's good to have somebody that represents the blue and gold like I'm representing the blue and gold, Compton State University. And I want to say thank you again to Wendell for being able to.
I want to thank Wendell.
What's going on? Yeah, we all want to thank Wendell, but
yeah.
What's going on is that this is a very prestigious panel of people on here. As Dr. D comes back eventually, I am his nephew, his actual nephew, Corey, and I am going to pass it back along to him because it looks like he's coming back in now.
We're so glad that everybody is here, and we're
here. Go ahead, Corey, because like I said, in case I find myself getting blipped out like the Avengers, then I know that I have my nephew here representing, and he's of course is from UMES, University of Maryland East.
And Bowie State.
Also say
Bowie State, two HBCUs.
And Bowie State. He's a Bowie State grad, got his graduate degree from Bowie State. But I just wanted to say, shout out to Compton State University because there's more than one Baltimore HBCU that's there. And I'm throwing that out there because we should be getting the same money as Morgan State University is getting. And speaking of which, I got Brian H. Waters here.
What's up,
from
everybody?
From the wrestling realm.
Brian H. Waters, one half of the wrestling realm. Both of us, I shout out to my partner. You can see him on the poster behind me, the real Dwayne Allen. Both of us are graduates of Morgan State University, another HBCU. Yeah. But you know what? We talking Black excellence, so we have Black love for this HBCU panel. I know my brother Corey went to 2 HBCUs, so it's always going to be that respect. I don't do the whole rivalry thing when it comes to HBCUs. Let's leave that for the other PWIs and other institutions.
Let's leave it for the ones that are still there because we've been out for a while. So yeah, we're gonna leave it for the ones that are there. Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, it's all love here, of course, with the HBCUs.
Absolutely.
Yeah, definitely proud to have been to one, even if we didn't go to one.
I also want to
school is school.
Go ahead, Doc.
What are you saying, Doc?
I also want to give a shout out to Greg. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. I can hear you. I can hear you loud and clear, sir. Thank you for having me on the panel again. We've done these live.
Greg from.
Oh yeah, go ahead. Greg from you can say it. Go ahead.
Nope, go ahead.
No, yeah,
Morehouse I want to say
College.
What's up to DJ G Mill.
Yes, sir.
Greg Miller. Morehouse State, Morehouse University,
Morehouse
University.
College,
I'm going to shout him out and welcome him on representing Morehouse College. Y'all need to be a university. I guess I'm speaking that in existence. So
no, it's
I definitely want to say shout out to the admin of the DMV Wrestling Fans group page. Been doing that, celebrating 10 years of the DMV Wrestling Fans group, and Brian, 10 years of the Wrestling Realm. Shout out to you and the real Dwayne Allen, the Wrestling Realm, my young OGs holding it down. I'm so glad to have them here. But also our featured guest from Ohio State University, an educated Black man indeed, the filmmaker of Lady Wrestler, and the buzz has been growing, especially since a couple of weeks ago. Chris Bournet, thank you, man, for being a part of this.
Thank you, Doctor. Glad to be here. And by the way, I did go to Ohio State, but at least what they tell us in Ohio, that we are home to the oldest, if not one of the oldest, if not the oldest HBCUs, Wilberforce as well as Central State.
Yes, sir.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome.
Yes, absolutely. Very good. So, guys, I'm here and HBCU Con is live. So how am I going to do this? I'm going to do this this way. I have me. I'm gonna pull a Drew Gulak. Because I am going to start this off by having a PowerPoint presentation. So let me know if you can actually see this right now on the screen. Let me know if y'all can actually see this now on the screen, because I have me a PowerPoint presentation, how we're going to set the tone to show this, right? So here we go. I'm just going to show the first screen here. Here we go. Right here. There it is. So for those that are not familiar with me, I've been Dr. D for 35 years. It started with me and a best friend at a high school, private school. In the gym, we talked wrestling and we put on 4 mats, 4 chairs, and we had our characters. He was Captain Crunch. I was the Doctor of Devastation, and those that know me know that I am still the Doctor of Devastation, the Almanac of Information, the original wrestling mark of excellence before there was any firm, and I am still a mark for this business. And for those that are having feeling some kind of way about that term mark, it's okay. It's okay to be a mark. And Brian knows this, Corey knows this, and even Greg may know this too. I did 2 definitions of a mark. All of us are number 1, I like to believe. But at the same time, we know that there's that number 2 definition of a mark that may not even have a clue. And I'll revisit that, or have y'all go to my page, my YouTube page, where y'all can revisit how we talked about the definition of a mark. Chris, I wanted to ask you, brother, when you hear the term mark, do you refer to yourself that, or do you just prefer being a fan?
Yeah, I prefer the term fan. To me, the term mark, I associate that with, and I shouldn't make this association, but when I hear mark, the first thing I think of is, somebody that's like a patsy, like somebody that's like an easy mark. You see me walking down the street, and it's like, oh, I can pick his pocket mark. So that's I prefer fan.
Yeah. So based on your definition, I put that under number 2. That under number 2 because there's a lot of them. But I know Greg from DMV Wrestling Fans. We see some number 1s and number 2s on your page, definitely. When it comes to people sounding off, people speaking whatever opinions that they may have. But Greg, tell us how doing 10 years reflecting with having people meet up at whatever restaurants in the DMV we could possibly think of, because unfortunately, because of the pandemic, we had to say goodbye to Summers. So when things let up, who knows where we'll end up next, Greg?
Right, yeah, that's going to be the main challenge. Getting out of the pandemic, and then getting to a place that can host wrestling, and then a place that is willing to show wrestling. The biggest thing was even like at the beginning of the network, the restaurants beforehand, they were showing the pay-per-views, and it was nothing. It was a deal with DirecTV that they had, and they would show the pay-per-views no problem. Now with the network made things a little bit more confusing and everything. And then with AEW kind of shifting from Saturdays to Sundays, hopefully they go back to Saturdays. I don't know how that's going to play out in the future, but that's going to be one of the things that we'll be looking at. To believe that it's been 10 years since we started this whole idea, and the whole concept was to meet up and go to events and this, that, and the other, and how it's grown and what it's become since then. It's truly a testament to how dedicated the wrestling fans in this area are, and how much we enjoy wrestling, and how much we are fans of the sport that we enjoy.
Absolutely, absolutely. We definitely enjoyed having you just spearhead everything for this area, because even I believe that even once this thing lets up, that we are going to see growth. And the reason why I'm saying that is because when everybody has their own group pages and podcasts, and when they're all connecting together, it's one thing to connect digitally, but me being I wouldn't say anti-podcaster, but I would say I've always been more of the video person. I love making the videos, and I like connecting with the people.
And we definitely see you at the shows too.
Being amongst, yeah.
I don't think you miss the show.
I miss being among.
Yeah, I don't think you miss the show in the area.
I definitely miss connecting at the indie shows.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, connecting at the indie shows, connecting to the people, missing the friends, the family, not just by blood like my nephew and I are. And I just want to also say that every last one of you on here is considered family. I want to shout out Damon Davis for watching, checking out Facebook. We're being streamed on all the platforms, from Facebook to Twitter to Twitch. HBCU Con is live as we are having this panel going on right now. But I also want to say this. I can't wait for things to come back on, because I have what's called a wrestling mission. 5 years ago, I started this wrestling mission to celebrate being Dr. D for 30 years. And then the following year, the next phase was the formation of the firm, started by my nephew and myself. And then the following year, we culminated with the original Dr. D show that started the content that came after. Everything under the Dr. D umbrella started with the Dr. D show back in 2000, 2008, 2009. So this is how I'm doing this again with the second wrestling mission. So, and that's why I refer to it as the Markish concept. And it's fun and entertainment purposes only. Just had to throw that out there. Not looking to get any kind of lawsuit from Kenya Barris and the Blackish team. So this is just for fun entertainment purposes. I love doing deviants and variants and mashups of pop culture. But let's go ahead and go right into it. Let's go ahead and jump right into it, fellas. So here we go. All right. So it's been a week now. So we have come to the close of WrestleMania. And I'm talking about not just the week itself, but also the post week. We have finally closed out WrestleMania. So here's the thing. I don't know if it's going to be followed. I don't know if it's going to be followed when it comes to having a 2-night event like we've often seen for it to have happened this way this past week. And I think that this may be something that WWE should consider as they move forward. Let me just see who would like to touch bases on WrestleMania going forward as a two-night event. Corey, what do you think?
Yeah, I think I would. So, as most of y'all know, I go every year. I'd rather it be one night. That's just me. More so for fiscal reasons. I just feel like I don't want to pay for 2 shows of WrestleMania caliber for 2 nights. If I'm paying for one show, I want to keep. If they go to 2 nights and I'm paying the same thing that I would pay for one show, I'm okay with it. If I'm paying for 2 shows for 2 nights, I'm not okay with it. And I feel as though if they're going to do the 2 nights, like I said, they should plan it to where if you're planning on attending 2 nights and you're buying a combo ticket, it should be where you're paying one price for the show of WrestleMania. That's what I've always been used to. That's the way I think they should keep it. As far as the aesthetics of it being presented with everything on 2 nights and everybody being able to take a breather, I guess that's the only positive. And I think that's what a lot of people are going to bear down on, is that I'm not getting overloaded with 7 hours of content. It's not that bad for some people. So yeah, it depends.
Corey, go ahead.
No, it's Greg. Go ahead.
No, from watching it at home, like this time I was watching it at home. I didn't make the trip down to Tampa, but I actually like the 2-night format as a watcher. If I was going to the event, I kind of echo some of Corey's sentiments as far as the pricing, and then the things that you don't factor in, time to the arena, traffic, or parking. The situation there as well. Parking at the arena versus parking at the stadium is 2 totally different things. Yep. Or you're paying for parking twice, that kind of thing. Just the event being big, it's more so a problem that WWE has because there's so much good talent, and they should be showcased at that time of year. And how can you properly do that on one night of WrestleMania? Or is this just your showcase event? Do you try and you got to work with the format that you have with the one night? But I think 2-night going forward isn't out of the possibility right now.
Okay. Yeah, Brian, as you came in, 1 night or 2 nights it's moving forward with WrestleMania?
I'm kind of echo statements. Somebody who always wants to go every year. I'm thinking more of the 1 night for the parking and the ticket. The combo ticket would be nice, but also the thing for me, when I go to WrestleMania, it's also an opportunity to see that city. Even though I may not branch outside of the wrestling bubble per se, but it's still getting an opportunity to go to the restaurants, go to the indie shows that's outside of the WWE bubble. Even though, one of the things Corey said years ago is, I know why I'm there. For me, I'm there for the WWE content. Anything else is a bonus, but I would prefer the 1 night because it gives me something to look forward to. And, with the 2 nights, the thing is, if I'm choosing to buy a 2-night, if I choose it just 1 night, would I know what's going to be on the show ahead of time, or am I going to only find out as we get closer? Now, watching wrestling so long, we can kind of have an idea. I think we all kind of knew that if Sasha Banks and Bianca Belair was going to main event, they would have been on night 1. But, I just want to make sure. So I think I always say, look, make it one night. And now with the Friday night SmackDown kind of being WrestleMania SmackDown, put your B talent or your B matches on those shows and have your prime time matches on WrestleMania and get it back to the 4-hour format as opposed to being burnt out from sitting there for 9 hours.
I would even take 5 hours, Brian. I would even take 5 hours instead of 4. And what's interesting that you brought up is I think with the 2 nights currently right now, or the past 2 years, I think because of the pandemic, it logistically worked for them because they didn't have to really schedule anything with appeasing to fans getting to certain venues. That's what's going to change when everything kind of starts to open back up next year and everything's going to be open. Logistically, they have to be able to secure arenas, secure stadiums for 2 nights. Like, that's the other thing is that they were able to get that this year, but who knows what happens for each year going on that they could do 2 nights. There's a lot more for them also doing 2 nights instead of 1. So we got to consider that too.
I also think about production people getting burnt out.
Yep.
You know, you think about, it's a lot. As we know, it's a lot to produce content. Now you're talking live television, live for a network. That's going to be a lot on one person or a group of people to go back-to-back nights.
Mm-hmm. They got to sit in Gorilla for 2 nights, essentially, and do WrestleMania for 2 nights. I think that's the part that a lot of people are leaving out. Yeah, we for our sake and comfort, we're talking about having it 2 nights so that way we aren't burnt out. But everybody that's got to produce what we know as WrestleMania, the final product on television, that's a lot on them too. So,
and not to mention that you're also dealing with the elements as well.
Yes.
We saw this year with Tampa that they had the rain delay at the beginning of the show, and even on Sunday it was raining earlier that day, pretty much all day.
Yeah.
WrestleMania when it's in a dome versus when it's in an open air stadium, that's 2 totally different things to consider as well. Because even on the open air ones that I went to Miami, and I went to the one in New York. In the back of my mind, I was like, well, let me have some ponchos ready just in case. So you have to think about that in terms of as a fan too. Do you want to be sitting out there 2 days and it's wet? That's another thing to consider, going forward if the 2-night format is going to be the future of WrestleMania.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Go ahead, Chris, because I know you got to jump in here too, man.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I mean, it really boils down to a business decision by WWE. Do they want to have WrestleMania, continue the tradition of being like the Super Bowl of wrestling, where it's a 1-day, huge event where everybody tunes in, or the Coachella of wrestling, where it's a weekend festival where you can have various events going on and not all of them are televised. So I think it just boils down to, like, I echo everything everyone has said about logistics and the business decision. And can you get fans to patronize all these different events, or is it going to be overkill if you have too much?
Right.
Shout out to Boheen on Facebook. He agreed with 1 night. Those that are watching, especially I'm on the Facebook. Forgive me if you're on other platforms on Twitch and I don't see your comments, but thank you all that are viewing it. With that being said, it is Black Women's Month. We have Chris here. We're going to get to talk to Chris about his fantastic project, Lady Wrestler, and what has been the result since I had the chance to talk to Chris on my IG edition of Dr. D's Showcase when the film dropped on Amazon Prime Video that you should watch now. That you should watch, especially when we get off of here, because I already have my purchase and I already, of course, love the film. But with that being said, I've said this since February when it was announced, and I don't think anything followed it. Sasha, Bianca, PWI might as well give them this award now. Match of the year. Go ahead, Brian. Let me kick it to you.
I mean, it's so much why this was the match of the year. We all, you can get in and talk about the wrestling, but just what it meant as we sitting here on this esteemed HBCU con platform, we're talking about 2 Black women representing, so representation. I'm going to continue to talk about this point. I was sitting here watching with my 6-year-old daughter, and we've watched this match 3 times, and she gets excited every time. She watches wrestling casually, but because she saw a woman on TV with a long braid that looks cool to her, that has the same skin tone as her, that made her interested. And then when you think about just the actual match, one of the things that I always appreciated was that it wasn't an overkill with finishing moves. Sasha Banks went out there and was a ring general, and you only saw the KOD once, and that was when it was time to go home. You saw Bianca showing expression, and it's the little stuff. You know, I go back to Dusty Rhodes and Cody Rhodes putting on an epic match that really told a story, and that's what this one did. It really told a story, and it's a match that I would put in front of any non-wrestling fan.
Go ahead with Greg. Let's go ahead with Greg.
I agree straight up everything that Brian just said there. My notes from that match, I watched it back for a second time.
Greg, can you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Oh, Brian. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. No, I watched it back for a second time just the other day, and I just like the little things that they were doing in the match. The things with Sasha and Bianca. Right before the match started, they felt the crowd and they were cheering, and you know why they were cheering. And they felt that moment, and they let that moment breathe. They looked at each other, and they were like, I know what this is about. I know what this is about. All right, you ready? You ready? Let's get it, right? And they went and had their match. And the thing that I like that Sasha was doing, she was working with the braid the whole entire match. The whole time she was doing things like with the braid, trying to like mess with it, do this and that and everything. And then by the time it got to the end, when Bianca said, you know what? You're going to be messing with my hair? Hold up. Take this with you. And, and just whipped her with it, man. I'm telling you, man, I felt that one. And then it led to the finish and everything that, like, built up to it. As far as, like, storyline within the match, not so much the story leading up to on TV, but the storyline within the match, it's the perfect match. And that was the right match to close the show, night one, definitely at WrestleMania. And you could have an argument that it could have closed night two.
All right, Chris, you had the chance to watch WrestleMania. Your thoughts on Bianca and Sasha? Do you think that should be match of the year?
Well, I'll just say I celebrate and appreciate any opportunity for Black women to be showcased, especially on huge international platform like that, and any opportunity for little Black girls to kind of see themselves in roles that are conventional or that the general public doesn't necessarily associate Black women with. I just my hat's off to them. So yeah, I celebrate both Bianca and Sasha and their accomplishments.
Corey.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Chris. Corey, go ahead.
Yeah, so I agree. It's going to end up being match of the year. I know it's funny. I know Greg will get on me for this, but it's, for me personally, I already know how Greg is. For me, I'm always the kind of wait and see guy that they have a chance. There's still 8 months left, essentially, in the year that somebody has an opportunity to have the match of the year. But I don't think anybody's going to. There's still time, so I'm going to be that half full guy that somebody can do this and have a match of the year. This is not knocking them, because I think honestly, they could have reversed the nights of WrestleMania, and I think people would have a higher review of how WrestleMania was. If night one was night two and night two was night one, we'd be talking like this is one of the best WrestleManias ever, honestly. And to touch on what Greg said about the psychology with the braid, it's so funny he echoed that, because I'm thinking the same thing, is that since Bianca has come on the main roster, she's pretty much been a face and has not used the hair, because that was more of a heel tactic than something she was doing as a heel, specifically in NXT. But the psychology of the braid from the beginning all the way to the end of the match, that she gave in and said, you know what, you're going to get this now. Like, and the way that it pretty much sealed the end of the road for Sasha Banks, in that she was blocking every attempt of the KOD, every attempt of Bianca trying to win. And up until that hair whip, she was doing okay. And that happens, it completely wipes the board. She hits the KOD and she wins the championship. The way they were booking this match, though, and you guys may or may not agree, up into the coming weeks, which we got to give creative a heads up or an acknowledgement for this, they were making it seem like Sasha may actually win this. And there was a lot of dealings with that. People were thinking, okay, Sasha's the only 4-horsewoman that hasn't had her Mania moment yet. And, she's 0-5 at WrestleMania. This is the one that they probably will give to her. And I kind of was on that boat considering that, okay, they've got time with Bianca, but the other end of it, as we clearly see now, Bianca was so hot that you couldn't deny her. So they did the right thing.
To continue on for Black Women's Month, celebrating Black Women's Month, I do want to acknowledge some of the outside WWE events that happened during Mania Week. Wanted to shout out, of course, Impact Wrestling, and Jazz had announced her retirement after losing to Deonna Purrazzo in the Impact Knockouts title match for Hardcore Justice. And a good friend of myself, Brian, Corey, and I'm not sure if Chris had the chance to reach out to her, or if she's reached out to you, somebody that would definitely I would definitely recommend to be on Chris Bournet's Lady Wrestler podcast. Faye Jackson, one of the indie, I don't want to say indie, I don't want to use the term indie darling, but she's a darling to me, and she knows it. But Faye had announced her retirement after her appearance finally with her gray sweatpants battle royal as a part of Game Changer Wrestlers dynamic slew of events with Alley Cat's Real Girl Hot Ace SHIT event. But shout out to both women that did some tremendous things in their careers, and shout out to both women for their event. I didn't get a chance to mention this, but I want to talk about this as well before I jump into the next slide. And that is, with apparently every WrestleMania season, there's also their spring cleaning season. And this is where the hashtag, my new hashtag, Give Me a Reason, comes in. And the spring cleaning doesn't seem like it was last year, but to have these names being released, it's sad for their careers, but hopefully every last one of them will bounce back. Names like Tucker, Kalisto, Mojo Rawley, and Wesley Blake are some that we wish the best on. Mojo Rawley, Virginia's own, University of Maryland's own. But names like Mickey James, names like Samoa Joe, names like Bo Dallas, names like Chelsea Green, and this one that really hurt to my heart because I've always wanted to meet them. It's bad enough you split up the Iconics, but if you had a direction for them to go in, why the Iconics had to be on the chop off list? We wanted to touch base on the spring cleaning that WWE did this past week. We want to talk about that.
Oh, I want to talk about the Iconics first, please. Y'all know where I was going.
Why? I knew it. First one.
Yeah, listen, this is the one. Greg, we were talking on the chat and everything.
We did.
I was upset. They were the two that I really thought when they split them, both of them, I was like, okay, they're going to do something with them because they're too good and they're too fresh in the women's division to not be able to do something with them. You always thought, and even with them, you always kind of thought they were leaning towards Peyton, really getting the quote unquote real rub from them. But my goodness, Billie Kay was knocking it out of the park week by week. Even though everybody thought her stuff was silly and you didn't know what was going on with her, but she was entertaining TV. The Iconics together, I don't know how you messed that up. It was already written on the walls that you could do something with them. the Iconics were over, really over. And it was like, come on, like they are like consistently on TV getting people to react to them week after week. They were two, like I said, they were two fresh bodies that you could throw in with all of these other talents that you could do something with them. And I mean, biasly speaking, they were my favorites. And I just, for the life of me, them being gone now, this is one I don't really speak ill on WWE like that, as Greg will scream to the mountaintops that I don't. But this is one I hope.
You put me on blast right now, man. I'm just
no, I don't care. This is one that I hope really comes back and bites them, because they're too good to have them sitting there and you just all of a sudden cut them. You just had Peyton Royce on Raw Talk give this whole impassionate speech, and then you go out there and you job her out to Asuka, and then all of a sudden now she's gone. Like, come on now. Like, really? Like,
of course, you know what though? Because I agree with you on a lot right here. But the thing with Peyton, I noticed the moment she walked out there, I saw it in her face that something wasn't wrong. I said, oh, she about the job. And I think maybe that was like, okay, we're gonna give you this opportunity. Let's see how humble you are. Obviously, I don't work back there, but I was like, come on now, you just gave me this. I'm excited about watching this match. But then you just go out there and it looked like you could see the attitude that there was something that went wrong the moment she walked out there, because she didn't have it. And I'm one who enjoyed the Iconics. I didn't like them splitting up. I thought, okay, now it makes sense. We know about Sasha and Billie. Wow, they probably dropped the tag titles. It made sense for the Iconics to get them. And if you think about how they was essential for Carmella becoming the women's champion. It's little stuff that you could do with them. Their merch, you could make all types of cool merch. We talk about representation, right? Let's look at the Australian wrestling community. Why couldn't you make them even more ambassadors for the young women down there? Because, you don't really hear them talking about who they looked up to that was from their their country. So there's things, but I do hope that this could be a good thing. I know it's very popular to say, okay, they out, they're going to AEW or whatever, but I think you bring them to it, and you could, because they do, I believe they got tag titles, or they had the tag tournament. You could bring them in when you look at that. And then, because I think with them and Samoa Joe, everybody else is kind of like, well, they wasn't really doing much with them anyway. Right. I will say this is disappointing, especially considering you just crowned 2 new women's champions. They're going to need fresh matchups. That could have been an opportunity for Peyton Royce on Raw, and definitely, I mean, the matches between Bianca and Billie Kay, or Sasha and Billie Kay trying to get back to Bianca, or stuff like that. So,
I really think it speaks more to a point of WWE creative. Sometimes they break up these teams and they break up these groups with no plans for the other side of it. We saw that with Retribution. I hope we're not currently seeing that with the Hurt Business. It's like Shelton and Cedric. I like both of them, individually and as a tag team. With Tucker and Otis, they broke them up and they split them up off the roster, and they never had a feud after that. So that leaves Tucker with nothing. We know that Otis is the money in that tag team. Right. We can look like anybody in this room can see that Otis is the money in that tag team, but Tucker still has value, so why not get the most out of that tag team while they're together before you split them up? It just doesn't seem like they ever do that. They just pull the trigger way too early. Sometimes when they're breaking up these teams, and you're not getting the top side value out of the talents that you have on the roster. And then it comes to spring cleaning. Chelsea Green was on TV once, maybe she got hurt, and then that was it. Samoa Joe, I don't understand if he called WrestleMania. Like, was he planning on coming back? Like, was he planning on come back? What's happening? Like,
I think that's the issue of him not being clear. That could be. That's what my guess is. Maybe too much being. Maybe he just wasn't clear, or he felt he could be clear. It could have been like a Daniel Bryan situation. But I wouldn't.
And maybe he wanted to go. So it's like that's the part of the story that we don't know. But when I saw that initially, I'm like, huh? Like that's almost like I don't understand that one. Even if Joe's not in the ring, that man's got such a mind for wrestling that he can be utilized elsewhere. And I was shocked, but there's other people on that list that they're not doing anything with them. You might as well free them up and let them, make it on their own. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, go ahead, Chris. What were you gonna say about it?
Yeah,
Shout out to
I-
Jonathan Young. Oh, go ahead, Chris. I'm my bad. Go ahead,
no,
Chris.
I was just gonna say, yeah, I echo what everyone said about the Iconics, and yeah, it definitely seems like a lost opportunity. But it seems like one of the things that WWE relies on is like people having like something that they didn't expect. So maybe that was the thinking behind it.
Oh yeah, that's true. It's interesting.
I want to shout out Jonathan Young, my brother Jonathan Young, my good dude Alexander Mentor. Thank you for watching. Yes, Alex. I don't even like mentioning his name, but FIFO Select have reported that Kevin Dunn didn't see anything in Billie Kay. I seen something on Twitter that someone did a mock post saying WWE had agreed to the release of Vince McMahon. Might as well throw Kevin Dunn under that meme as well. Thanking both of them for wishing them for whatever they want to endeavor. But the next slide right here. Okay, so as y'all can see, I have it just grouped up because pretty much pro wrestling is like it once was when I used to watch it back in the day. I mean, here we go. So on Mondays, you got AEW Dark Elevation and Monday Night Raw. Tuesdays, you happen to have NWA Power, then AEW Dark. It's all by itself. NXT has moved on to Tuesdays, and the new season of Dark Side of the Ring is set to be in May, and that's going to be a very good one. Starting off with the late great Brian Pillman 2-hour premiere episode, and I'm sure a good friend of mine himself, Brian Pillman Jr., will be a part of that. Wednesday, you have MLW, then you have AEW Dynamite. Now, I don't know about everybody else, but I watch Ring of Honor on Wednesdays on Stadium. Some may watch it on Fight on Mondays, but Ring of Honor is basically on every single day if you really watch Ring of Honor, especially late at night. But go ahead, Brian.
No, I was just agreeing. I said, especially if you got like Pluto TV built in your smart televisions.
Yes, Pluto TV. Thursday, NXT UK and Impact Wrestling. And Fridays, of course, is SmackDown 205 Live. I don't mind the honorable mentions like Young Rock on Tuesdays, or even if Main Event is still coming on. And I'll even shout out for my local indie family, MCW Cast, which I enjoy on Tuesday nights on MCW Pro Wrestling, which of course MCW is the WWE of Maryland. But on the weekends, you have I catch up with anything from the international flavors from New Japan, AAA, and anything in the UK, even the School of Morton, which will be on later today. But also, as Brian said, lots of independents that you can watch on IWTV, on Pluto, and even on Twitch. AAA has a Twitch as well. They're also on Pluto. But I also wanted to even acknowledge that right now, Ring of Honor is doing an all weekend marathon on their YouTube dedicated to who I call the Godfathers of Honor. And that's, of course, my boys, your boys, them boys, the Briscoes, because we know that Mark and Jay are set to fight for the on the 500th episode of Ring of Honor. So lots of wrestling to take in once again, and being amongst you all diehards. Let me ask Chris, what wrestling are you into these days?
Yeah, I'm looking forward to the debut of the Dark Side of the Ring, because I always find out things that, especially having interviewed some of the legends, it's like stuff that we didn't get into in our interviews, stuff that just kind of blows my mind. So yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to the Dark Side of the Ring new season.
Go ahead, B-Dub, because you know if there's anybody that I miss seeing on the indie scene is my young brother Brian H. Waters in the wrestling realm crew, along with the real Dwayne Allen.
Yeah, man. It's so much wrestling. I call this a dream. Like if for somebody like myself who did not grow up into this, may sound crazy, but I didn't grow up in the comic books. So when the Marvel stuff and all the movies come out, I'm always like the one in the group chat that's lost because I didn't watch all that stuff. I was just into pro wrestling and Power Rangers and Mortal Kombat, but that was it. So like this right here is like a dream. But now I'm not gonna call it overkill because of the simple fact that everything's on demand. So I don't think I would get in trouble for saying this, but hey, when I'm working at home, guess what's on my TV? Wrestling. So, in the evening, if it's say like a Tuesday night, and I say, you know what, I'm not going to watch AEW Dark right now, or I'll watch, maybe I'll catch NXT later. I can do that. So, but this is really cool. And then, if you're watching all these, because last week I did the whole cycle, right? I watched everything, and then during the weekend, I was watching some of the stuff on YouTube. Shout out to Amber Rodriguez, wrestling at Championship Wrestling in Memphis. So, just these opportunities that is really cool for the younger generation. They don't realize how lucky they have it to be able to watch wrestling every day. And then it's wrestling for everybody. So if you're into the sports entertainment, you got the WWE. If you want the straight up shoot style wrestling, all about honor, boom, Ring of Honor. If you want that independent wrestling promotion that's produced very well like television, you got MLW. I personally like a lot of the wrestlers that do come to AEW. I like their content in MLW better because I feel like I get to see them showcase better. So this is an exciting time to be a wrestling fan.
Yes, it's definitely an exciting time to be a wrestling fan. I'm going to say overkill on my end, just because of the work that I do. So when I go out and DJ, I picked up a gig out in Woodbridge. Brittany's in Woodbridge, shout out. Wednesdays and Friday nights. So if you go back Wednesdays and Friday nights up until last week, that was NXT and AEW on one night, and then SmackDown on Fridays. So I was watching on demand anyway. And the only show that I get a chance to watch live is Raw. And Raw's 3 hours. And, I don't know how y'all feel. Sometimes that third hour is dragging. And sometimes the whole show's dragging. It depends on how they're presenting it. As far as like Raw's after Mania, this one did not feel special at all. And it felt like a homework assignment after I had like 2 great nights of WrestleMania. I'm like, oh. And I was just like, I feel the fatigue. And that's just coming from WWE. I try to keep up with AEW. I'm about a couple weeks behind, but as Brian was saying, like the on-demand portion of it, yes, you can get to it, whenever you want and watch it on your schedule. I like to be able to at least be caught up on Dynamite by the time we get to a pay-per-view. So the thing that's good about AEW, the pay-per-views are spread out far enough that I don't feel like I'm missing too much if I don't catch it week to week. But, it's a lot of wrestling content on it, even for like the most hardcore fan. But sometimes I feel like I need to step back just a little bit and really focus in on the talents that I like. I really like what's happening in NXT, in all honesty. I really think that they have the tightest show as far as like bell to bell and the characters that are coming out of that show. And then, there's other stuff too. I haven't watched too much Impact, but I really want to get into MLW as soon as we get out of the pandemic and maybe they're running shows again.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Chris, you there? I see you coming in and out. Chris, are you still there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, good. All right, so let's go ahead and get into it. Let's go ahead and discuss it because I had the pleasure of discovering Chris through hearing about his movies, through someone posting a clip from it, and I'm looking it up, and this brother right here has had this production out for quite a long time, and for it to be on Amazon Prime Video, if you haven't checked it out, if anybody hasn't had to check it out, I definitely highly recommend it. Shout out to Brian and Chris, who are already on Duke Loves Wrestling podcast yesterday to discuss not only just this event, but the fact that, and we really believe that WWE had something to do with seeing Lady Wrestler Ethel Johnson. Congratulations to the late great Ethel Johnson for being inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame. But as we have been hearing about this, there's it's an excitement and it's a concern. It's been appreciated to an extent, but according to the family, it's not. So, Chris, since we had the chance to talk recently and up until the point with how the movie has been doing and with the induction of Ethel Johnson into the WWE Hall of Fame, the family has had some concerns. And even before, Chris, we're going to get you to discuss it, I'm going to go ahead and share a clip from Lady Wrestler, from Chris Bornay's website, his YouTube page, where you can find all his content on Lady Wrestler and some of the bonus footage that didn't even that may not have been on the movie itself, but also check out his Lady Wrestler podcast, where we're going to show a clip where he gets to talk to the family. But we're going to take a look right now at the late great WWE Hall of Famer Ethel Johnson.
World Wrestling Champion Mildred Burke before a crowd of nearly 9,000 fans in Kansas City in what was billed as the first interracial championship.
And for them not to reach out and to ask for footage is totally disrespectful. And then for them to tell us, hey, we're going to correct it, but we can't do it until we get time, knowing full well this is WrestleMania weekend. The whole world was watching when they disrespected our family and disrespected history. It's not just a family issue, it's a history issue. Correct. And they disrespected history, Black history, American history, and world history. Everyone needs to know the truth. It appears that Bianca Belair is a setup. I hate to say it, but I have to tell the truth. Some of the things that she even says sounds just like my Aunt Ethel. Not to mention, I noticed that she wore a Black history robe in one of her matches. Black history maker. The history has already been made. Our family not only paved the road, they made the road for anybody else to come across it. So to come across it and not pay homage and to use my aunt's name for the wrong award, again, is very disrespectful. And quite frankly, it hurt us as a family because they have been exploited for years. And so it's finally time that it stops. And we cannot allow them to change our history. It made me feel like, Chris, they thought you were a small movie maker and we're just three little people and they're this big organization and therefore they could take and do whatever they want with our history. That's totally unacceptable. And I feel like they thought they could get away with it this year because they used my mother's picture last year and called her number 51 of the greatest African-American wrestlers ever. So for them to say that they did not know the story is a total untruth. I think they got away with that. So this year they said, let's do Ethel and let's make up our history. So when we come to you as a family and we tell you we want the history correct, then we expect the respect for them to correct the history and not to think because we're small people that they can do whatever they want with it. So we really need help from the public. Like we really need help so that we can document our history and secure it in the history books and in every Hall of Fame all across the world, not just here in the United States. After all, my aunt had a very great name in Canada. My mother was in Japan. They've been all over the world, Australia, Cuba. They're known worldwide for their history. And to tell us that the biggest fight was yesterday when they just erased Billy Wolf's history. He was the first man to integrate wrestling, which meant my Aunt Babs was the first woman to ever fight for the championship against Mildred Burke. That history was already made. Now everybody is just rolling on the history like it doesn't exist. So I do need big people to help us, small people too. But Chris, you're a small time person in their eyes, but you are huge to us because God sent you to us to follow this story. God brought us here. Our parents are coming from the grave to say it is enough. And so historically, we cannot set aside and allow people to disrespect our history and to change it to fit their needs or to fit, quote unquote, what they got going on in wrestling today.
All right. That for those that are watching, to the left we have Kim Martin, the daughter of Marva Scott. In the middle, you have Shelly Adams, the daughter of Ethel Johnson, and you have Renee, Marva's granddaughter.
She's actually, her name is actually Micaiah. Renee is her social media handle, but she's actually Babs Wingo's granddaughter, Ethel's older sister.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Thank you. I appreciate that because I didn't catch her name in the clip. I am following the family on their Instagrams, but Chris, you basically have set the tone when you made this movie. You set the tone when you reached out to the family, and I'm just going to say, first of all, again, kudos to you, brother, because every last person on this platform definitely should have you on. And I just want to say again, since we had talked, we see how the reception that it has gotten. So give us a follow-up now on where are we at with WWE and their response to making these corrections.
Yeah, well, Dr. D, first of all, I have to say thank you for all the support you've given the movie itself, but also bringing awareness to the legends like Ethel Johnson and Babs Wingo and Mark Scott from day one. So I just want to say thank you for that. So as far as the WWE, I have to say, first up, I'm not the family spokesperson. They reached out to me because they wanted to send a message to the public to let them know how they were feeling about how WWE approached the induction of Ethel Johnson. And so my reaction when I first heard about the induction was I heard about it just like the family did through social media. Neither me nor the family campaigned or contacted the WWE to try to get Ethel inducted. Although over the years during screenings of like Lady Wrestler, people would occasionally say to me, you should approach the WWE or you should try to do something with the WWE. And it was like something that went in one ear and right out the other. Not because I, have anything against the WWE. It's just because it wasn't something that I was so busy making the movie. I wasn't thinking about, what can the WWE, how can I partner with them? That wasn't, in my mind at all. So induction came as a complete and total surprise to me and to the family. And I think with the family, they were just kind of blindsided because they were like, there are multiple avenues for the WWE to reach out to us, not just through me. It's not about me. The Ohio History Connection, the statewide history organization here in Ohio, they did an exhibit just before COVID about the history of sports in Ohio and included the history of Black women in wrestling. So they the WWE could have contacted the Ohio History Connection, the New York Times, before about a year after Ethel passed away, which was she passed away in September of 2018, and the New York Times did a big article on her in like November of 2019. The reporter who did the big spread in the New York Times, the WWE could have reached out to that reporter. Looks like we lost Dr. D, but I'll keep going.
Yeah.
Anyway, so it wasn't that the WWE needed to reach out to me or use clips from the documentary. That's really, to me, beside the point. It was more so the family kind of felt like, you know, if you're going to honor the matriarch of our family, you know, the least you can do is use the proper footage. So from what I saw in the video, they did use one correct photo of Ethel Johnson. Then they used Sister Babs's photo, thinking it was Ethel. Then they used footage of Sandy Parker, who entered the business years after Ethel, and Bab and Marva, the three sisters who, like, you know, among the first three original Black women in pro wrestling. So I think that's what the family was upset about. So as far as I know, I haven't heard from I haven't heard otherwise from the family, but the WWE, after Shelly, Ethel's daughter, initially contacted them and said, hey, the footage you have is wrong. Could you please correct it? They told Shelly that they were going to correct it. And as far as I know, they haven't, either they didn't correct it or they corrected it but haven't posted it, or they just haven't reached out to the family to let them know if they corrected it and given them any kind of link to the corrected footage or any kind of assurance that the footage would be corrected. So I think that's what the family was just so upset about.
Gotcha. Yeah, that's what I was wondering, Chris, actually, because on different kind of, wrestling media platforms and everything, you kind of saw people referencing that, hey, this mistake was made, and WWE said they were going to correct it. As far as I've seen, I haven't seen any kind of retraction statement or any kind of video correction or anything yet. And that's what I thought was so interesting. I would think for a large company like that, with the resources that they have, that's something they could do within the hour, I would believe. I don't work in media. I don't know. But I would think that's something they could easily fix. So for them,
absolutely,
for them to say that and be able to do it and it not be done yet, especially working now with a huge conglomerate like NBC and all of their content being on Peacock, with the way Peacock is wiping out anything they seem to be socially not acceptable. For the stuff that they're wiping away that's socially unacceptable, I would think that a parent company like that, in essence, because they're the parent company of the WWE network now, they would be able to fix that, and they would want to fix it with the uproar that they've had from fans saying, oh, you're taking away so many of our, great moments that we had in wrestling. This was a great moment for that family, you would think. So for them to be able to fix that, you would almost think that second nature, get somebody on that's a quick 3-clip fix or whatever, however many clips it was that were in error, they could have easily fixed that. So I'm definitely waiting to see that. Go ahead, Chris.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, because that interview I did with the family, we did that last Sunday evening, and I posted it like 3 hours later. I had to pull all those clips, all those photos, and luckily I have it like all organized on drives. But here I am, one little guy with one little laptop computer. I was able to put that entire interview together, edit it, because there was probably half an hour more of us just talking back and forth that I cut out, rearranged clips. I did that all myself within a couple of hours, and I'm just one guy working with a laptop. If you have an entire television network like Peacock and in a huge organization like WWE with, seemingly infinite resources, something like that, like you said, it's drag and drop. Contact the family, say, okay, what photos or footage would you like used? Send it to me in Dropbox, or send it to me, through a cloud service or whatever. It's a quick, very quick fix. So, something that could have been taken care of and rectified within a couple of hours. So I don't understand.
Yeah, and I know, Brian, you do a lot of the media work as well.
Brian, go ahead. Brian, go ahead, because you had a chance. Sorry. No, go ahead, Corey, finish it. And then Brian,
I was just saying, Brian,
you go ahead and talk.
Yeah, thing is,
go ahead.
It doesn't take that long. Like Chris said, everything, is pretty much. I produced the documentary myself on a good friend of ours, Blake, And it was a couple things, and we was editing like via Zoom because we were editing during the height of the pandemic. So we would get on a Zoom call, and I would share the screen and audio, and it's really just a drag and drop. So hearing that was very disappointing, to say the least. It's something, it's one of those things. Unfortunately, we know how wrestling works. It always, we keep getting, Black people get pushed to the back burner, especially if I'm not. Was their footage WWE footage, or was it just another form of like another entity of like the NWA, or was it? I guess that would have been WWF at the time.
They were pulling footage and crediting whoever it was that they were pulling it from, but it was. I don't think there's any kind of WWF footage for Miss Ethel Johnson, I believe, or if there is, it's very little.
No. Yeah, and that's what Kim Martin, Marva Scott's daughter, was saying, was that these women, Ethel, Babs Wingo, and Marva Scott, and all their African American female peers came years before the WWF. There was a wrestling promoter named Billie Wolf who had his own wrestling organization. He worked with another promoter here in Columbus, Ohio, named Al Haft. So that all predated the WWF. Yeah. But that footage and those clips are out there in the public domain. So like I got a lot of the stuff for the documentary Lady Wrestler from the University of Notre Dame. Mm-hmm. There's all kinds of video libraries and even individual wrestling fans who have their own little archives that that the stuff is out there in the public domain, and it's not really hard to find. But you have to have somebody who has an eye who says, oh no, that photo is actually of Babs Wingo. That's not Ethel Johnson, or somebody that can do some kind of quality control. Like, for example, before I posted that interview with the family, I was like, this is going to take me a whole nother hour to sit and watch this video and like fix little errors. But I was like, I am not going to post this until I sit and watch this entire interview and make sure that all the clips are correct, because somebody is going to say, oh, you're up here criticizing the WWE, but you got a clip of such and such that's not correct. So it's called quality control. You make sure everything is correct before you post it.
It's always, you hit that right on the point. Y'all would not believe that in 2013, it sounds so funny that what I'm about to say, this actually happened. But in 2013, there was a time where Steph Curry had put up, this was at the beginning of the Warriors. Now, mind you, this is Warriors beefing with Clippers era. And they put up his younger brother in his place. You know how ESPN do the PNG files? Yeah. They put up his younger brother. And I remember my boy walking into work and he just happened to look up. He said, they got the wrong Curry brother up there. And what it was is lack of quality control. Somebody just type it in. Something was mislabeled. Okay, just drag and drop. And, and it happens. Granted, it's a human error. But the fact is, own up to it. Switch the footage. Pacify everybody. If this was Bret Hart, if this was Ric Flair, people who made their name in the WWE, they would have did it, But unfortunately, because these, this didn't happen, the prime of their careers wasn't in the WWE. It's almost as if like, it's not that big of a deal, but it is, because you're disrespecting the family, and like I was watching this, and one of the things I was like, wow, I kind of felt like she had to take a shot at Bianca. We all know Bianca Belair didn't grow up as a wrestling fan the way Sasha Banks was. So like when she said, I am Black history, I never took it as she was discredited. Even people she may know like Jazz and Jacqueline, she was just saying, as we continue to make our history, this is what I'm doing. You know what I mean? But as when in this situation, I can understand where she is coming from, because I could never be in that position of being hurt by a $1 million conglomerate disrespecting my family, But I just saw that part. I was like, she didn't take a shot at Bianca right there.
Right.
Yeah.
What was your thought?
I didn't think it was a shot at Bianca at all. I just remember the one thing that I learned in journalism in 12th grade. My teacher said there's two things to remember: be fair and get it right. And I think that's the main thing. And if you make an error, own up to it, fix it, and then move on. WWE, it shouldn't take them but 5 minutes, like Corey said, to fix it up and
put it. Probably got faster computers than what me and Chris working with.
It's been a week. It's been a week. Like, what has happened? That's the thing. It's been an entire week. Now at this point, you're just sitting on your hands. Like, This has passed through 8 channels. And honestly, what I think has happened, somebody has said, okay, yeah, we got to fix this. Hey, you do it. Okay, no, you know what? You do it. You do it. You do it. It keeps getting passed along and nothing has happened. That's honestly what I think is going on right now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and let me speak to the whole Bianca thing, because it's not the purpose of that video, and what Kim was saying was not to take anything away from Bianca. I think what happened is the way the WWE did it, it created this sense of, well, you're not including us. You're not including us in this historic moment because you didn't contact us. And then when you did run a tribute to, our mom and our aunt, you used the wrong footage and we brought it to your attention. And then you seem to apparently just not take into account what we said. So I think that's what she was just venting the frustration of. She even said we would have celebrated with her if they would have felt like they were included in the process, in any kind of way.
And that's I'm pretty sure they're not the only family that feels that way with that kind of legacy wing of the WWE Hall of Fame, which is interesting because that wing, it seems like most people are probably posthumous inductions, but it seems as though some of these people you could honestly make a case for that maybe they deserve an actual induction at the ceremony. But the other half of that is that at least WWE, I guess, is acknowledging that these people do belong. Require to be recognized. But somebody like that, somebody like that, I could see that, Brian. That there is an argument to be made that one could have possibly been something where it was a teaching lesson as to the history of women in wrestling, in particular Black women in wrestling, and that could have been something that they could have actually had on the show instead of it being put to the wayside because we're probably 2 generations removed from anybody even remotely remembering who these individuals were. Instead of that, they could have used it as a teaching lesson. Honestly,
you know what, Corey? It brings me back to when Mark McGuire was chasing 61.
Yep.
The generation, me at 12 years old didn't really know who Roger Maris was.
Yeah, nobody knew who Roger Maris was. Exactly. But
they put his family at all the games so that Mark McGuire could go shake his hand. That could have been, like you said, an opportunity for this family to be there at WrestleMania. Yep. I understand we're in a pandemic, but look, either do that or a Zoom call to say, hey, Bianca, hey, Sasha, we're rooting for you. This is an opportunity. So that's what I mean, and like I said, my heart goes out to them, to the family, because they do deserve better. And I would hope that somewhere down the line, the Black women's wrestlers would reach out to them and, perhaps build, get to know them so they can learn about the history of what their mothers and their aunts went through.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's funny because a couple days after I did that interview with the family, because I'm actually still a working journalist. I still do freelance print journalism. So I had actually covered this ceremony where these Black students at this high school had gotten scholarships, and the organizer of the event emailed me a couple days after the article came out and was like, "Thank you for recognizing these students, but actually you put the wrong group of students in the article." And you know what I did? I went and I prayed and I said, "Thank you, God, for showing me that I need to practice what I preach." And I emailed the man and said, "Thank you for bringing this to my attention. I've emailed my editor and asked him to correct the online version of the article with the names you gave me." That was the end of it. And he replied back and said, "Thank you for covering this event. I really appreciate it." So, just when we all make mistakes. So just, sometimes it's an easy fix.
Yep. Especially considering the Hall of Fame, like this is something that's part of your biggest weekend of the year. And being able to correct that, especially while it's still fresh, like I say, it's been a week now. The half of it is that it's been a week, it's been too long, but the other half of it is at least it's only been a week. Y'all should have been able to correct this by now. Go ahead, Brian.
No, I was just agreeing. Like Chris said, we've all had we all messed up. We had stories. I mixed up 2 Black doctors, and I said, hey, well, at least it was me. I reached out to the one doctor, said, hey, I mixed you up with the other doctor on the graphic. As a fellow Black man, I understand that we don't want to all be classified as we all look alike, because that's exactly what happened here. One of them, but at the end of the day, it's been a week. Fix it. It doesn't take long. And hopefully they'll get it done.
Go ahead, Greg.
Yeah.
What did you have to contribute?
No, I didn't have anything else to contribute to that story. I think to touch base on we're talking about, we're not even scratching the surface of what those women had to endure during that time, just to get on the card and just to become a wrestler, And so I think there's just more to the story, and I think we all could learn so much more from the generations past that were trying to get into wrestling. And it's wonderful to have this moment with Sasha and Bianca as a main event of WrestleMania. And then we can also look back and see how did we get here? Who were the ladies that paved the way for them and everything like that. And really, we live in such a time where we can dig in and we have the tools at our disposal to tell these stories. And I think it's an important thing. And I really want to thank Chris for, doing the work and getting out there and really putting it together to tell these stories and really put the emphasis on the generation that preceded us. And I think it's, that's what I like about wrestling. That's why I like those Dark Side of the Ring specials, because it gives me more of a story than I'd never heard before. And that's just, there's an A&E biography on tonight with Stone Cold. I'm gonna watch it, so same deal. So
yeah, the interesting thing about these ladies is that anyone that I've ever mentioned this history to, whether they're Black, white, Latino, whatever, they're really, really fascinated by these women. And I said this during the interview with Kim Shelley and Micaiah, is that it's because the story of especially the three sisters, Babs, Ethel, and Marva, it just encompasses everything, almost everything about American history. It encompasses race relations, civil rights, gender discrimination, women in the workforce trying to juggle raising kids and having a family and work, women in sports, how Blacks are treated internationally. In the documentary, they talk about going to places like Cuba and Australia. And on the one sense, they maybe didn't see the same kind of like Jim Crow that they saw in the American South, where they'd have to go in the back door of a restaurant or stay in a segregated hotel. But Ramona Isbell, another wrestling legend I interviewed, she talked about going to Australia, and she had some time to kill before a match, so she went shopping, and she's just sitting there looking at like a dress just to see if it's how the seams are sewed, to see if she wants to buy it. And the clerk says, "I'm sorry, ma'am, I'd rather you not touch that." Like like she has, she had like whatever, she has some kind of disease. It's got to rub off on the fabric, So these women really went through a lot of discrimination, not only racial discrimination, but you combine that with gender discrimination. So women like Fabulous Moolah and Mildred Burke, they've gotten into some of these Hall of Fames, but these women have the double whammy, if you will, of race and gender. So I think that's why people, myself included, find their stories so fascinating, because the obstacles they had to overcome.
Yeah, that's why I can appreciate you putting this together, because this is Black history, no matter which way you look at it. We hear about a lot of history, and we're all sports fans and stuff. We hear about our history in sports, but our history in wrestling is kind of always limited to the 80s and 90s a lot of times. And for people outside of the wrestling bubble, they don't hear about the stuff before that. So I can really just want to say this publicly, Chris, I appreciate you putting this together and working on this.
I appreciate that.
Go ahead, Doc.
Thank you so much, fellas. Thank you so much for holding it down. Really appreciate it. As we're getting ready to close out, definitely want everybody to make sure you follow them on their social media platforms. In case anybody want to know where my wrestling mission is going to go next, well, HBCU Con, please enjoy and support the rest of the festivities and their events. I will be attending MCW Fan Fest, Baltimore Celeb Fest, and BlurCon. I want to share with Chris real quick. I'm recommending for Chris to come to BlurCon. I'm recommending for Chris to reach out to the Congressional Black Caucus. We got to get this. We got to get this movie shown to these platforms and throughout the world. So again, I thank you guys. I thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, say it again, Chris.
Oh, I'm sorry.
All right,
I just said,
Corey, take us out.
Right.
All right. Well, thank you, everybody. And actually, we do have Wendell just.
Go ahead, Chris. I'm sorry.
Yeah, go ahead, Chris.
No. I was just going to say, Doc, everything you said is true, and I definitely have a lot of work ahead of me to reaching out to the Congressional Black Hawks and our local elected officials here in Ohio to do some kind of resolution or proclamation in honor of these women as well.
Yeah,
thank you, Brian. Thank you, Greg. Thank you, Corey. Take us home.
Hey, if you're not confirmed, consider yourself denied.
End of story. End of story. Enjoy HBCU Con. Again, follow Brian at Brian H. Waters. Follow DJ at DJ G Mills. Follow Corey at My Kicks Are My Fix. And follow Chris at Chris Bournet on Twitter and at Chris Bournet Writer on Instagram. And as well as his Facebook and Lady Wrestler platforms and his YouTube. Y'all have a good one.